There are so many reasons to fear failure because society tells us that failure, you know, in one way or the other is often bad. In entrepreneurship, though, failure is a power. But it's never easy to fail. It always hurts, but it's never easy to fail. For me, failure, I mean, my at the time when I took this leap to entrepreneurship, I was able to take some risk, but I had to educate myself. That MBA that I said I did was part of this education on how to take risks. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, cheers. Well done on doing this. I'm really amazed that you are, doing podcasts. And I mean, Pinkуда was always so entrepreneurial. He's definitely, you know, one of the best persons I've met in my life and deep inspiration. So I'm glad all of that has flown into you. How are things with you?
Great, it's great. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I do see him in a lot, the energy to just want to do as much as possible to just try to achieve things. And I see that in you as well. I mean, this fitness startup, I was just looking at it before we came on today. I think it's fantastic what you're doing. It's really, I think it's going to impact a lot of people's lives because I know there's a huge percentage of people in the world today that are just like sitting on their couch, not really exercising much. But I think this is like a huge first step for a lot of people in terms of just like getting more athletic, like improving their health. So I'm amazed at the work you've done, and also thank you for everything you said.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate what you said as well. And yeah, you got it right. That's exactly what, the idea was behind this is to reduce friction um, for something that is genuinely, good for you. As an it's a necessity in life, but people find it hard to kind of, make it a habit. Fitness or exercise as a habit is hard because it's not immediately rewarding. In fact, it's punishing. So, uh, when I wanted to do something, do something with gamification, which, I've been in the games industry, I want to take that into real world applications. It's presented itself and the timing was right with VR. So yeah, it's still early, if you look at the impact it could have. So, yeah, but it's doing well. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So for anyone in the audience who's never heard of FitXR before or their company you've started, how would you give a brief overview of what you've created and your vision or your mission behind this project?
Fantastic. Yeah, FitXR, and I assume it is, yeah, new to a lot of people. But it's been going on for 7 years. It's virtual reality and augmented reality, or spatial OS, whichever term is most prevalent at this stage. But um, it's an application, a service that provides fitness or fitness classes or exercise to people at their home via this medium, which is virtual, augmented, and spatial OS and the lenses associated with it. So we are essentially an app on the Meta Quest store, and you use the Meta Quest devices and hopefully any other devices that is out there to use this just like you would use a gym. So you wear this and the gym is inside your house. And basically it's a gamified fitness program. So um, it's not just going into a gym, it's making it fun by, kind of applying all the things that you'd get in a short game into exercise to make it appealing, to bring you back and to make a habit out of fitness. So yeah, that's the short. And our mission obviously is to create a movement for movement, basically. Essentially, we want to kind of start this revolution for to get people moving right from their homes instead of hoping to get to a gym to be uh, be, be more active regularly. And so with that mission, our vision is to kind of create easy, kind of access to exercise, but in a way that is habit forming. So we are using VR as our first format because we think that's the most compelling kind of medium out there to make fitness fun. Whereas what exists in the current forms in the mediums um, are have their limitations. So that's why I think our mission and vision is unique because fitness being fun is our way to get this whole movement for movement started and get everyone exercising regularly.
Great. Yeah. So I saw on the website there was boxing and dancing. So when you say bring the gym to your home, what
Mhm.
different types of exercise are you really incorporating? Like if I imagine, for example, weight training as an example, how would you be, is that also incorporated to the system somehow, or what type of areas do you touch on?
So when we started with the first headsets that were out there, which were early HTC devices, then it was wired and it had a lot of weight, and you had to kind of work around that to um, you know make fitness a use case in VR. So at that time, we did not incorporate or wait for the kind of to provide all sorts of exercises. We started with the with something that was intuitive, but also gave you results. So we started with boxing, and we had an app called Box VR on Steam and the PlayStation. That's how we started it. But by this time, as right as we were speaking, FitXR has uh, not only kind of provide or augmented their the boxing and other aerobic exercises. We have dancing in it. We launched our partnership with Zumba in FitXR this early this year. So we've not only added those aerobic exercises, but we also added more studios that allow you to incorporate weight training, not in the way that you do strength training in gym with huge dumbbells or barbells or heavy machinery, but a step kind of before that by using your body weight or wrist weights or weighted jackets and stuff, which you can make available at home and incorporate into our workouts. So we're getting there. We have introduced both aerobic and resistance-based training. And I think for a lot of people, that is more than enough to give them not only toning exercise, but also enough to build up their endurance, their muscle, etc. So yeah, it's there. So it's not just a caveat, as I say, it's not a replacement for the gym, but it is for many people um, more than enough to be the gym if you're just getting started or you've been wanting to augment your gym experience with something regular. This is right at home. You can take the VR headset anywhere you go. So it's a gym with you all the time is more the definition here. But for a person like me who never went to the gym before we created this, I now make going to the gym a part of my life just because I've discovered that fitness can be fun and it improves your life by experiencing it firsthand. So I'm sure that those people who would say, bringing the gym to your home was what we did.
Yeah, I mean that's great as well because for the target audience you're going for anyways are probably people who've never lifted before. So even if you limit to like the more introductory type of body weight exercise, I'm sure that's great for the target audience. And um, what are your visions going forward, years ahead with FitXR? Like, do you have anything in mind for ways you want to expand it or additions to it, or?
Yes, of course. I mean, because we have begun on a journey to get people moving and exercising. We want to kind of take them along this journey to wherever it they want to go, whether it's a lifelong of habitual movement and exercise. We want to be there and provide that for them, or introducing, obviously we touched on introducing fitness to people. So the introduction part for anyone who wants to get introduced to fitness, obviously we want to be there. And we have a lot to do in that front, and we'll keep on focusing on that area. But I think as we go forward and the world opens up with advancements in AI and personalization. I think we'd want to be very data-driven and fun. And still continue to be a fun way to exercise so that we never lose that aspect of exercising as we're trying to convince people that exercise is fun. We hope that we'll always kind of keep adding fun ways to exercises in whatever medium we find that our customers are present or people want to be present in. So right now we are in the immersive medium in VR, AR, spatial, but over time, who knows, wherever it go, wherever people want to exercise or wherever we can find them or find a place to motivate people to exercise, we'll be there.
Right. So you mentioned that before you got into this startup, you worked in the video game industry. And I'm curious about what the transition was like from working a job in the video game industry to coming on your own and working on your own startup. So did you leave the previous job completely, or was it like you were managing both at the same time? So what was that transition like?
For me, I had a clean transition. Um, I bloomed late as an entrepreneur. So after my first, so let me start in the beginning. So I worked in the casual games industry and mobile games industry from about the early 2000s. I had a privilege to work on some great um, games such as Bejewelled and Plants vs. Zombies, um, some of which kind of began the casual games industry, not only in the mobile but on the PC. And I got a chance to put some of these games on the first devices that are out there on the mobile. And I saw the whole transition of the games industry from hardcore to mid-core and casual, and then go mass market via mobile. And this came with good and bad kind of things into brought good and bad things to the industry. One of the things was that it brought the good things that it brought in was a deep understanding, a use of data to kind of look at how users play and then personalize and give them options to um, play for a longer period of time, but in a very personalized way. So, which is great. This I thought was a great thing to kind of have and apply in different areas, and it soon became the term called gamification. Practically everything from training to onboarding into companies where being gamified, loyalty programs, etc. So I had been kind of thinking about and expanding on gamification for some time, and I took a break just after my first kid was born, about just over 10 years ago, um, and did an MBA, and that's where I met my co-founder who had similar ideas, and we kind of combined our ideas together, and our industry expertise has kind of complemented each other, and we landed on this idea to combine both gamification and fitness in a medium that we thought was forward-looking and would be the next medium and a pervasive medium for not only computation but daily use. So that's how we got into this. And yeah, I mean, so since it was a clean transition, I got they were good and bad. I had to learn how to work, um, you know, in this format, but also um, kind of bring over all the things I learned as an employee in the games industry. So yeah, a lot to talk about that. That's a very big kind of topic, but no, it was I'm glad I took a clean break. Not everyone is able to. But it's also not recommended to take a clean break, but I was, and kind of, here we are. I'm glad we are here with some success.
Right.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people see the world today as a lot of opportunity, right? That anyone can kind of make their own startup and follow the entrepreneurial journey. But I think at the same time, the majority of people are kind of held back by fear because there's always a fear of failure. There's a fear of discomfort of stepping away from what's your current reality, right? Your current comfortable lifestyle.
Mhm.
And that because of that, I think a lot of people fall into this notion that, yeah, they kind of have this idea they want to start, but they always keep procrastinating on it because they're they're afraid that they're going to lose what they have going for them right now. So did you ever fall in that zone of that discomfort of newness or that fear of failure, or how are you able to overcome that if you did?
Oh, definitely. I think that's and that's a very important and good question. That fear, I think, um, is what makes us a social person. You know, you have there are so many reasons to fear failure because society tells us that failure, you know, in one way or the other is often bad. In entrepreneurship, the failure is a power. But it's never easy to fail. It always hurts, but it's never easy to fail. For me, failure, I mean, my at the time when I took this leap to entrepreneurship, I was able to take some risk, but I had to educate myself. That MBA that I said I did was part of this education on how to take risks. I wish I had learned more of what I did during the MBA as a younger person, or maybe I would have taken this leap at an earlier stage. And there are always trade-offs. You know, when you're earlier, you're probably foregoing some um, regular income for this risky venture. At my age, I had maybe banked some of these risks to make sure that, my family's taken care of, and I had the bandwidth to kind of operate and maximize my opportunity cost. Um, right when the kind of all the things fell into place. Um, but not everyone would be able to recognize that because life's pressures or whatnot are always there. And then there are when you start, you don't have something that is immediately sellable. It takes a while to build in entrepreneurship, it takes a while to build a product or a service or whatever your offering is. It takes a while to get to that stage. And that is a very tough stage. So you might get delusional to say this is never going to happen. And what you think of making, it changes during the journey. It never is the product that you end up with. Fortunately for us, in a weird way, we've just been very mission focused, and FitXR, my co Sam and I have been able to make the exact product we wanted for a while, and that's just a function of a lot of things happening. But even then, there are many things that turn out differently. So it is fraught with risk. But I would say that, what if you're talking about the entrepreneurial journey and how to kind of safeguard yourself against the fear of, doing something big and uncertain, you time box it. And then you take immediate action, and then you don't go into this planning mode forever. You within that time box, you need to have some actionable item. Create something, and then go seek the answers from the people for whom you have been planning this for. Like, so your customers that you're planning something for, this product, making this product for, or creating a service for. Make something quickly, even if it's like a customer form, a Q&A form is the first product. You need to go and ask them whether this is something that they'd want. Sometimes, most times this is applicable. Sometimes a person like Steve Jobs would say, customers don't know what they want, and I'm making something that's better for them that they don't know. Sometimes this might not apply, but in most cases, most of these, startups that exist try to solve problems that do exist in life. And for them, I would say, don't get deterred by small failures, because it's a sum of small failures that is what's called a success. Because, two negatives make a positive kind of way. You need to do a lot of things to get there. So don't be deterred by one or two failures, and keep moving.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know you checked out the Navy SEAL episode, and one quote that stuck with me that he mentioned was that you need to take more risks to feel alive. Otherwise, you're just living. And he drew this difference between feeling alive and just living. And most people are just living because they're in a comfortable state. But the second
Mhm.
you take risks, the second you feel failure, then you really feel like you're alive, and you can feel like the emotional swings and a more like beautiful sense of life as well. And I think before I started the podcast, I think sometime in September, I had a reflection that I'd rather feel the pain of failure than the pain of complacency, because I think the pain of complacency kind of tricks you that it's gonna feel okay right now, but then as soon as it starts compounding and it takes off the effect, I think down the road your life will be colored by that sense of regret. That what if
Mhm.
I actually did what I really want to do? And
Mhm.
I try to take risks. I mean, there are definitely times where I do hold back, but I think one of the missions of my life that's been throughout high school is to whenever there's something I want to do, just try to get it done. And as you said, take that first step, take that action. Because again, people get stuck in that planning state where they're just reflecting on I have to do this, I have to do this. I need the perfect plan to get started. But as you mentioned, that sometimes you just need to take one step. You just need to take that first action because then it takes you out of the shoes of it takes this idea out of your mind and it puts it into reality. Because then you can actually start to see how it starts to develop. So 100% agree with everything you said.
100%. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly that. The first steps, are what entrepreneurship is about. Because as I kind of allude to my experience to say that what you think it is you're going to make is never, what ends up. Because it what you make is not with just yourself and your ideas. You make it with other people, and um, I'm 100% believer that obviously you will be doing this alone, but you will never be doing this without other people helping or contributing or partnering with you in making any step you take. If you believe that in the combined power of humanity, or in people working together to make things better, that will relieve you in the early stages of entrepreneurship, or anything you do. Believe that you can do things better with other people. Trust them. You'll have to build all of these. Are not just, you can't just say, I'm going to trust people. You will see that people will fail you, and that is because your understanding of how to work is probably not as it should be. It differs from different groups of people or different people itself. How you work with them is something that you have to really figure out before you work with them. But the gist of it is that you do things with other people. And once you take the first step, when people see that you've taken a step, and then you've taken a few more steps, you start a movement and people join you. And that's how things happen. It's always those first few steps that entrepreneurial people take that yeah, kind of starts this whole journey of entrepreneurship. Otherwise, not everyone can take this leap because of whatever reasons, societal pressures, familial pressures. But that's what entrepreneurs do. They took those first few steps. And that itself, kind of differs you from any other person. When you talk about complacency, I think that the one thing that I really want to tell you as a young person who is getting into this world is, uh, I'm glad you have been hard on yourself, but don't be too hard on yourself, because otherwise you might tend to look at the negatives more than the positives. And just make sure you have a check on this, that the hardness doesn't being hard on yourself shouldn't define everything you are. You need to live in the present moment, and you are not just what you do. You are, this living, functioning body. You might, be part of a family. Enjoy all of that. There needs to be balance in everything, but take power from the other aspects of your life to power the other parts of your life.
Yeah, I remember
That
you
is.
said that you love spending time with your family, but it's kind of the work that fuels that. And I think you mentioned in your values that you wrote regularity and rigor, but also reflection and rest. So I guess talk to me more about how you draw that balance, because sometimes I know I can find myself in that rigor state, but I do agree that it's important to take that time to reflect on it and have clarity with it. So how do you draw the balance between those two different values?
Um, I think all of them are interdependent. On the values I came up with, I had to think about this, and it's all interdependent. It's like a flywheel of values, where you come up with the goals, you make sure that you set them up, and you have regularity and rigor. Which is the way I do it is I do time box what I want, in my professional life and my personal life, and I make sure that it is regular, and then that I don't have complacency on that. Otherwise, it's very easy to say I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll meditate tomorrow, or I'll just have these 15-minute rest tomorrow, or I'll just push my to-do list of emails to tomorrow. You come to a stage where when you realize that doing that isn't creating the habit you want, or making you unhappy, um, that's when you will know that what you need is this kind of regularity or rigor in your life, and it'll be different for different people. But to simplify it, I go with time boxing what I would need to do, want to do, and this includes time for focused work, time for focused family, time for reflection, time for me time, time for sports, time for playing with kids. And then I do it regularly. Even during vacations, I need to kind of know, um, what is my vacation time. Maybe that sounds too kind of drastic for some, but that is the kind of person I am, and that's what helps me. Some people can do this very naturally, and I do hope that someday I get to a state where I know that when I'm enjoying myself, I know that it's okay to enjoy myself, and I don't have to check my calendar to see whether it's my enjoyment time.
I think I
But
put myself in those shoes a lot as well. I
there you
think
go.
time boxing, I want to learn more about what you mean by time boxing, but what I think is that like you within a day, it's like so you mean on a day scale, you want to
Mm.
touch different pillars in these different blocks, or do you also mean on more of like a long-term scale, like months are blocked as well? So is it both like the short-term scale and the long-term scale, or
Yes, I mean, short to medium term is what's more practically, kind of achievable when you block out. But if you have a fuzzy idea of what you do in the long term, that kind of trickles down back to what you do in the short term as well. So time boxing, obviously, for when you have kids, you'll know that you'll have to time box vacation time, and that is way in the future, and you can tell everybody that you want to be disturbed this month, these weeks in August, etc. But or when you're creating a product and you know that you have a release in 6 months, 8 months time, you can block those time. But anything beyond that, I think might be too much to achieve for most people. Um, so I think being short and medium term, very focused on this overall kind of model of time boxing, which is like, when it comes to within this week or 2 weeks, I try to make my calendar more specific. Otherwise, I just have this generic way of saying mornings I don't attend, um, you know, any long meetings. It's more kind of, thinking time and strategic time. And then afternoons are focus time, work, and evenings are more creative or things like that.
yeah.
And if you follow that kind of model, I think it works for me. And, similar models would work for different people.
I think it's funny. I think we live in very similar ways. So what I do is I outline different pillars of my life. For example,
Yeah.
my schoolwork, the podcast, my fitness, my
Yeah.
friendships, my family time. Like I think I generally have like 5 pillars, and I try to block up my calendar as well, like in different blocks of time where I'm focused on something else. Like for example, when I was in my sophomore year, even part of my junior year, I would spend a lot of time just doing whatever I felt like doing in the moment, which I think can also be good. But I realized that without giving a priority to what the time was. Like when I'm with my friends, I'm always thinking about the homework, or when I'm doing the homework, I'm constantly thinking about how I don't want to be doing this. But what I found by blocking up a day and by saying that, okay, in the morning, like before school starts from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I'm going to do my schoolwork in this block. Then I have this classes during the day. Following the school day, I have my gym scheduled in right here. Then after dinner time, I can just spend time with my friends. And then post 9 o'clock, I can spend time like reflecting, whether I meditate or I journal. I think that's helped me to find that balance where I'm able to continue to see progress in the work I want to do without it taking over my life. Because I'm still able to spend time with my friends. I'm still able to do things I enjoy doing, like reading, playing spike ball, whatever that might be. But I do wonder if you think that trying to do too much in a day can also hinder your progress. Because sometimes I do reflect and wonder that if I'm trying to do like 100 different blocks in a day versus trying to focus on one major purpose and make that like the goal of my day and have everything kind of surround that. Do you think that it's better to have more of like a balanced like a lifestyle, or do you think it's better to kind of laser focus on one major thing to be able to see more progress toward that goal?
It's a very good question, actually. And I speak with recent experience on both sides of that coin. So I recently I've taken I've stepped away from day to day at FitXR, and I'm trying to kind of focus on my values in life and seeing where else I can kind of expand my energy to make sure that I can achieve some of the things that I want to achieve and take some of those values. Um, so what has happened in this year that I've got some time off from there is that I've taken on about three parallel things, and I tried to time box them, but it is still within a very short period that I context switch. And I think that has been draining to the effect that when the failures of one, which I have not fully reflected on or digested, impact the performance of another task. And when you are not and when they compound some of the failures, it hinders your performance overall, or in one other task where you could have, if you had focus, you would have done spectacularly. So we are humans. I mean, if you I wish sometimes that I had an AI chip in there, Gen AI, chips becoming a reality might be very, possible soon. And maybe then we will have one of those to multitask and have agents in our head. But at the moment, we aren't, right? We are kind of driven by all the hormones that are generated within our body, and our ability to process all this information is largely dependent on, things outside of our control. So, what you need to understand is what good looks like for you. If you have if you are if for these multiple things, what good looked like for me was not just simply getting it done. As we were talking about, take the first steps, kind of approach to entrepreneurship. It doesn't apply to every stage of the early days of any startup. So for me, when I was trying to implement new ideas, I said I'll be able to compartmentalize my time and mentalize my time. And the way I am, um, I like to jump from one to the other, and it helps me kind of keep me motivated and keep my energy fresh. I thought I was able to do more than I could handle, but then I realized that it was uh, producing lower quality work. And I do believe in doing things really, really well. When it gets to a point when you are presenting it to the world or people, or making it real, um, then things to be need to be really good. You are, for example, a launch of a software product. You don't often get many launch opportunities. You might be panned by your customers. During that time, you might need extreme focus to make sure everything is right. Before that, when you're prototyping ideas, you might be able to say, I don't know what the outcome of this could be. I'm just gonna do some A/B testing. So I'll do light work on one version and a light work on the other. And then as I go and collect data, this will come into, I'll know more. So earlier stages might do with less, kind of focus in your area of work, but at different stages, that focus might need to be increased or improved upon. So what I had went through was that some of the work that I did went on very quickly and needed more focus, but I could not do it because I was quite spread out. So I had to turn off many of these things and focus on one thing at a time. Not turn off, pause some of them, or hand it over. Some of them I genuinely had to pause. So this was my experience. And so to kind of get the gist of it was that you are able to multitask and do several things in a day if they're operationally kind of in a mature stage, and they're living their own life, and you just have to kind of tap in and out. But if you're starting something and it's not ready yet, you might have to focus more on one thing at a time. depending on your capacities and your willingness to do something. So I would say there's no hard and fast rule, but early days, have focus, and make sure that you grow legs on things. And then when it's slightly operational, you can take your focus away and do multiple things, is the formula I use now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you're beginning a new project, given more time and effort, but the ad's starting to develop and it's more like less of a rowboat, but now it's like a cruise ship. You kind of touch it less and kind of let it keep going. Um,
Yeah.
I think the way I've seen it in my own life over the last year and a half is when I've been rotating in and out of that stage a lot. Like, for example, I might go 2 or 3 months where I'm more laser focused and 2 or 3 months where I'm more balanced. And it's been, I don't know how the it works, but it's kind of like naturally like how I felt. Like, for example, right now, I feel like I'm in more like a balanced state, but in the winter time, I felt like I was really laser focused on a few things. And, I guess I am still young, as you said. So it's more about an experimental stage because, as you said, I don't think there is a one size fits all solution to anything. But I wonder, even as you've achieved a lot of your goals and seen a lot more life experience, like down the road, do you still sometimes find yourself going in and out of like a laser focused mode and like a more balanced mode, or do you often see yourself more in like the balanced state these days now?
Um, no, I wish that never happens to me. No, balance is this for me. A balanced state would be when I am able to go into focused states sometimes, and forget everything exists and get the something done. But yet, you know, that doesn't seem out of place because everyone, including me and the people around me, know that's how I operate. I love this. I love solving problems. So for me, I hope that's how I operate all the time. When you have to solve problems, and especially hard problems, and you need to get, into focus state alone or in a few different people, that's what I most enjoy about the line of work I am in. So I think yeah, that I think, and then that in general is what describes this kind of work. So if you are in this kind of work, that's what you'll do. Um, uh, Maybe it's different for scientific research. You have a slow approach. Everything is kind of you do at at a pace that is set by the community. Technology entrepreneurship is not like that. You have to huddle. You have to go wake up and sometimes you have to do things till the morning, not sleep for 48 hours, and that's my life. And I'm sure that given that you are doing similar things, you'll face things like this all through your life as well. And I think you'll be happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love when I'm having a conversation and they bring up their the joy for the work they do, that strange kind of love and fascination they have with their work. Like I've spoken to many people and I found out that I think before I had a perspective that most people hate their job, but every time I'm talking to someone, it's like they love what they do. They have a fascination for it, whether it be you who have created the startup and love solving problems, versus even when I spoke with a chef of my school, he had this like fascination with cooking. And when I speak to my wrestling coach, he has this fascination with this, like how the entire team comes together and how like he organizes the team and leads them to success. And I find that such a beautiful thing about human nature, how we all have like a unique interest or unique like way our mind operates. There's this book I ordered, I haven't read yet, called Frames of Mind. I think it talks about how there's like multiple types of intelligence and everyone is kind of genetically designed differently, but because of that, they have strange kind of peculiarities or unique interests that make them unique. And I think one of the themes that's become a theme of the podcast is me talking to people and trying to discover like what their unique passion is and like how that's manifested in their life. But I find that such a beautiful part about human nature.
Indeed. I mean, it- people's interests, when they don't align with the jobs that they're in, that's when people, that's when conflict arises, and it manifests into forms of kind of discontent. Not people not liking their job, not liking the situation, not being able to do anything about it. So this is one of my focus areas for the last year when kind of took the time off. I thought that in the process of hiring a lot of people, I did see a wide variety of people that we hire. Some of them kind of align with our company's mission and vision, and they're happy to come on board and even and go through the changes that an early stage startup or scale up kind of goes through and adapt and keep themselves in sync with that. Some people are not able to do it, but it's mostly, when communication fails is when that misalignment happens and the discontent starts. Um, for example, people, the fact that I'm able to talk about doing things I love, um, as an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you don't get to do the things you love in any job. And it also doesn't mean that, entrepreneurs wouldn't hate their jobs. It's just that misalignment of what they want versus what they are doing. So that's why reflection is very important, not only personally, but within jobs, within, any kind of any kind of relationship between a company and the employees. Because after all, we are all entrepreneurs. We are all trying to contribute to making whatever we are making work. In that sense, so you're kind of signing up to make an uncertain future certain. So you're all taking a risk, and that risk-taking ability is what defines entrepreneurs. So people should see their jobs more like entrepreneurial, that they're creating something of value, and that sense of contribution, that ownership that they will have will help, I think, define more contentment, more kind of and less kind of bad feelings towards people's jobs. I just want to state, I know this is off topic, but I thought I'd mention it because I think it's a very important topic to kind of discuss, because people go on about discontent, about not liking their jobs, but everyone, I think, is that everywhere that happens, or most places where this happens, there is miscommunication and misalignment of goals, and that is what a lot of people should focus on. So yeah, I hope that happens.
Yeah, and I think from what I hear, it should be everyone's goal to find out what that is for themselves as well. I mean, I
Yeah, and for themselves and for the places they work, or or for the things they work on, it's very important. So always reflection. Again, I go back to reflection. Reflection is what is very, very important. You should be able to kind of hold yourself responsible for achieving the things that you want, and some people don't, and that's where that's because of an absence of reflection.
right. So how do you reflect? I know it's a very broad question, but what tools or how do you kind of approach that theme of your life? I know you mentioned meditation is one thing, but how would you say you reflect in a day to day?
I think the simplest way to reflect is, first of all, knowing what you want, and that is goal settings. First of all, you know what your values are, what you don't compromise on. And then, you know what you want in life or professionally. And then you make a plan on how to achieve them using the strengths you have. And that's the simplest way. And then the way to do it is to kind of put it in up somewhere where you can see it, you can where you can go back to in a regular way, in a hopefully a periodic time, to say, this is what I'm doing to get towards this. And these are the steps I've taken. And because I've taken these steps, these now have become a part of what I've been doing towards this goal. So I am happy I've taken these steps. And reflection, that's why adds to your happiness. That is what life is about. The when we sometimes we try to kind of go towards this imaginary happy state. You're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you earning money? Or to be happy in life. But what is happiness is what we never, kind of wonder. So what we do by goal setting is define what we mean by what will make us happy. And you kind of look at it and make sure that you know what it is and remind yourself. It's the same as when you kind of have a company and you have this mission, vision, and those are the mission and visions that you kind of talk about when you hire people, and they kind of align themselves with them, and you come on board, and every every company all hands, you reiterate that to make sure that people are aligned and you go towards. Otherwise, people would lose focus on what they're doing and why they're there together. So you have to apply the same principle to yourself, and then take and do this regularly, because if you don't, you might your mind would wander. There are so many other pretty things, beautiful things in this world. What is your pretty beautiful thing? What is your happiness? Is what you kind of keep reminding yourself over and over. And you can use simple tools like Trello, or even ChatGPT has so many tools to kind of do that now. This is a wonderful time where all of this is becoming much more easier than before.
Yeah, I think the topic you touch about, when I've like read about different religions and everything, they all come back to that fundamental idea that
Mhm.
happiness is separate from your external state. And
Mhm.
that's not to say that you shouldn't pursue anything externally, but it's more that you can find like happiness in any kind of lifestyle, right? That you can become an entrepreneur and make millions of dollars. You can be happy there. You can be happy with nothing in a bedroom, or you can be happy traveling the world, or you can be happy just exploring your hometown. It's really that it's not to say that you shouldn't go out and achieve your goals and work as hard as you can, but I think what you describe as that idea of reflection and coming each day, even if it's for 2 minutes, and just looking at your vision, your purpose, your values that are fundamental to you, it brings clarity. And I think when you have clarity with this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, no matter where you are, at least what I believe is you can find happiness anywhere.
100%. And you do this, in the simplest way possible. Just before going to bed, if you say, this has been a good day, and these are the two things I'm going to do tomorrow. And then you know what tomorrow has. It reduces uncertainty. And then at night, those two things you reflect on again. How did that go? Is one way that people, do things. Or if you want to make it less intense on you and do it weekly, you do that, and you just count the top things that worked for you that didn't work, kind of thing, all we need is, some of us need a framework, especially when you're trying to achieve um, a lot many more things than what life throws at you, such as kind of working with other people, creating companies, defining work for other people. Then you have to be more structured. That's the kind of level I'm talking about. For day-to-day life, you probably don't need that many reflections, but I would say that it would help. Reflection always helps, just to kind of count your blessings sometimes. And by the word blessings, I mean not in any spiritual religious way. I'm not, really investing in, nor do I believe in all that. But I think all I do believe is that we are governed by chemicals, and for those chemicals to be the right chemicals to be generated, the some of the tools of gratitude that we could practice, of reflection we could practice, helps us power ourselves in a more efficient way. So that's why I think these tools are important in a regular basis.
Cool. So I remember you mentioned that there were three key drivers to your success. We touched on proactive action, like taking that first step. We talked about um, learning from your failures, and I believe there was a third one, which was candor and communication, which I think you briefly mentioned. But could you go more into detail about what you mean by candor and communication and why that is so essential as a driver of success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the one that I learned um, the hardest way. And that was mostly because I've come from a culture where um, communication um, is wrapped around your a set hierarchy of respect in society. So you can't, when you work with people, you have this societal kind of hierarchy that is imposed upon you sometimes. And again, that was my interpretation of my world where I come from. And so candor was something that I had found quite hard to practice from an early stage when dealing with, say, negative feedback, or even taking negative feedback. So with the result that it becomes passive aggressive. For example, if you're not doing well, you need to be told that you're not doing well, but in a way that is positive, where it is to say that if you don't do this, the outcome for you would be that you'll be unhappy in achieving this kind of thing. What I found was that I couldn't even say that. I would say something that is completely around that, just to not, just hurt feelings. And it took ages to get, take or give feedback. And um, and that, kind of became a too hard to handle at a later stage when it was kind of layered with different interpretation of what you said, etc. So what changed my mind was this book called Radical Candor. And of course, working here with people from different industries, different perspectives and walks of life in the West after coming out from India has helped. When you meet different people, you learn different ways to work with different ways of communication that work in team setting. And that, I think, has been one of my, I think, biggest learning, and one of the key things that I take everywhere is that being um, honest and upfront, but in a very respectful way, and communicating what you need, what you want, what your goals are, and aligning as quickly as possible is a key tool in making things happen. You might want to, you could be proactive yourself, but until and unless if you're working in a team, you tell people what you want, and have alignment with what you expect them to do, and um you make sure that you understand what they need of you, and then do a handshake. I think that level of candor, which Navy SEALs, some of the people you interview, which Navy SEALs and Army people at practice, I think that level of candor is what is necessary, that communication is necessary to make things flow very well. So that is a something that I am still achieving to, I'm still hoping to achieve, and I'm constantly practicing, but I think it's one of the key kind of success, powers of success in any area of work.
Yeah, I think navigating those social relations, that communication is probably one of the most challenging skills there is
Right.
out there. Because really, like I think, as you mentioned, you have to find this delicate balance of being upfront and just getting the message across instead of hiding behind layers of
Mm.
false faces. But at the same time, you need to really figure out a way to deliver it that actually promotes action, right? Because I think a lot of people's first reaction to any negative advice is defensiveness, I think. And I don't think anyone's perfect. I definitely do that a lot. And sometimes when I
Yeah.
reflect back later, I realize, oh, like, why was I being so defensive? It's like I think that's like your immediate like hormonal response to when someone criticizes you. Maybe because it changes your perception of reality in a way, and our mind doesn't like that very much. But it's hard to find that balance for sure. I mean, um, what are some other like strategies you found to navigate that as you continue to develop its skill?
I think, I mean, you're people. Some people obviously would have a different perspective to candor. So you just need to, everyone has different coping mechanisms to good communication. Context is very important. Why you are saying what you're saying is what you should start it with. Obviously, sometimes no matter what you say, it might be interpreted differently. Patience is, that's why, a big virtue. You need to understand the world that people come with. So my world is not your world, kind of is a key quote from one of my professors at Cambridge that I have kind of valued and kept, and you utilize all the time. And I thought at that time it was such a silly saying, but yes, people's worlds are different, and understanding and contextualizing that when you have a communication, showing respect, these things are very important. But beyond that, I think the only thing that I would definitely say around contextualizing is, if you to make people understand, use less opinions, more data, if possible. That makes it neutral. Make it less personal, as non-personal as possible. Never lose respect when you're talking to other people around. When you talk to them, give feedback, make them feel equal. This is a partner with them. Partnerships the definition of a partnership, which I learned from a friend of mine, is that it is equal. A partnership is equal. Everybody benefits. That's what partnerships are. And so try to treat conversations, relations as partnerships. And then I think when you are on an equal footing, you tend to have better communication, because it's in your interest to preserve this partnership because you both benefit equally from it.
Yeah. One of the things I found that has worked kind of well is like praising people. I think it does something to someone's psyche where they're immediately put in a positive state rather than negative state. Like for example, if my goal is to get my mom in the gym and she's not been going to the gym for a week or 2 weeks, I can go up to her and yell at her and be like, "You're not going to the gym in so long. Come on, you have to go." But I found if I start by saying that, "Mom, look how healthy you've been. Like I saw what you ate today. You did such a great job. Let's go to the gym now because I know it's been some time, but it's good for you to go in the gym." I found that whenever I start with the praise, the outcome is always so much better. And I know my dad mentioned to you like the nonprofit I had worked on previously, and one of the
Mhm.
examples with that came to my mind just now is I remember like a year ago, I had someone working on my team for like so the tutoring department team, and one of
Mhm.
his jobs was to communicate with some of the parents that signed up for tutoring and like coordinate them with the tutor. And I noticed that one of the first emails he sent to like a parent reached out to us asking for tutoring, and he responded with like a very bland one sentence email. And when I saw that, I was copied on it, and I was like, I feel like he could be more cordial with it. I feel like he could be a little bit more descriptive and like happy to have them there. 'Cause I feel like if I received that email, I wouldn't have a very positive reaction. So I could have done what I always do and just call him and just tell him that you're wrong. Like this is why I'm right and you should be doing this. But I was able to catch myself in that moment and think to myself, what's the best way of dealing with the situation? So I said, hey man, I saw you I recently put you in this position. You've been doing a great job. We've recently increased. I just find something to praise him about, right? That we've had all these 5 new students who just got paired up, and you're doing a great job. But I just noticed one real quick thing. I think you could just do a little bit better. Is like expand on the email. Just write a little bit, like 2 more sentences. And I also
Yeah.
put there that I used to do the same thing until my dad noticed me sending those bland emails, and he helped me fix it. And I think
Yeah.
that just puts it more in the not like a negative view that I'm like, as you said, like you don't want to be in control. You want to consider the context. So I don't want
Yeah.
to just be like I'm on top of you, like I'm higher in the hierarchy. You should just listen to what I'm saying, but more in a way that I think you're doing a great job. It's just like something I observe. I think that has I've seen it has a positive response in people.
Amazing. That's quite perceptive for someone working at the kind of your level. That's yeah, that's true. Praising people works, but don't turn it into a shit sandwich where you kind of
Yeah.
people, it's obvious that, oh, now there's something really negative coming. And then you have to kind of append it with something really nice at the end. Unless you develop that personal kind of touch of to say that, no, you're safe, even delivering the shit sandwich is all for your, for your benefit or our benefit. Sometimes it might just backfire.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with how communicate in different contexts. Email is even worse. People read it in their with their voice in their head, right? So it will be like, the last time I spoke to this person, he was in this mood. I'll apply that voice to this line, and it kind of, throw it out of context. On that note, though, there's a new app by Naval Ravikant called AirChat, and there it's you basically you talk, you speak out what you're saying, and an AI transcribes it. So when you read it, you'll see, and then it's very it is really apt for this conversation, because when you read it, you'll read it in a different way. But when you hear what they're saying, because that is attached with that, you will see that it might come out in a completely different way. So I think that app will do really well to show how, the world is not that bad. It's that you read it too harshly, and actually they meant it in a very jolly way. But yeah, I mean, if we can come up to a stage where we can deliver feedback verbally or communicate verbally, I think that's there's more chance of being amicable than on written formats or any other formats and non-personal formats where you can't really understand the cues that are being kind of used for that communication, and might you might just read it completely out of context, and it spirals down this black hole. But and that is why where during COVID and after COVID, things became very transactional because everything was like through this window like this here, and there was less personal touches. But personal touches is important because that allows you to do your transactional work because but also kind of surrounds it with goodwill and familiarity, which kind of makes this the transactional work more safe because you feel like you know this person, and if they something slightly different, you can allow or forgive them for it and say, that's why they did it, and I'll clarify it with them later. But if without that personal touch, without kind of bonding with your fellow people, it becomes a little hard. So what I would say is that um, around teamwork, you do need to have that forming and storming phases where know they're good and bad and form really deep relationship with all your coworkers. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
And so and that's one of the tools I would say I rely on a lot to make sure that I form relationships with all my people, to make sure that when we work together, we don't have to kind of form new relationships or know new aspects of them all the time. And that then it's just a smooth sailing, and you can kind of have candor in the right and without having to worry about context.
I wonder what your thoughts are about communication in a group setting, right? We've talked about the partnership.
Mhm.
Um, I think groups are a much more interesting aspect of human nature, and I know Robert Greene had wrote before that there's a madness in groups because we tend to give an idea that we think everyone in the group will like rather than what we think is true. And one of the quotes you also wrote as one of your lessons was that it's important for success if we have everyone thinking individually. That's how we can overcome disagreements. So I wonder what your thoughts are on communication in a group setting.
Yeah, I did love that quote as well. It's I think that's absolutely right. The groups are how things are produced. That is as I said, the power of a group to deliver and amplify an idea into into reality, um you know is what I completely believe in. And you start with this small seed idea, and the group makes it real in a way that that the originator of the idea would never have thought about about how it would turn out. And um and but groups come with groupthink. You tend to sometimes groupthink basically turns out to be a bad idea amplified in a way where everyone agrees to it, and it becomes bad idea with lots of people behind it. So those are things that you have to really kind of um, kind of be wary of when you work in a group. So the worst that could happen as a group is, you have like a cult-like person who you blindly follow without dissent. Disagreement is therefore, in my opinion, a must-have in a group. You should have it as a rule when you form a group that if we see a long period of time when a group does not have disagreement, this is a group that is probably a party and not going to be productive. So you need to introduce that if you want something meaningful coming out of that group.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I believe in. I think Amazon has this
Oh
culture as
yeah,
well.
I heard about
Dis-
that thing.
yeah.
Is that the one where
Dis
Jeff Bezos speaks last in every meeting and has like the least senior person speak first, or is that different?
Yeah, that is also, I mean, I think coming from my background, I think that would have, if as a young person working in the industry, if I had that kind of, you know, like a tenet to work around, that would have helped me a lot because there were times when I would look up to the the most senior most person, and whatever they say, you basically concur and you have groupthink. But that would encourage diverse opinions, and I think that's why I welcome the success of Amazon, because if it's a culture of disagree and commit that has brought that out, I think that they deserve all that success, and it's come out from million, all of their people contributing to the success, and not just luck or just a few people kind of working towards those goals. So yeah, it definitely resonates with what I consider a lesson of life, that disagreement is a must. And I would never want to work in a situation where we have, groupthink, or behave like a cult.
Um, I think individual thinking
Mhm.
is also a very difficult skill to have. And it's just so ingrained in our human nature to think about what others think about us, because that is a selective advantage of our species, right? That's how our collaboration is what gave us an advantage over other species and why we took over the world. But I heard this funny example once where there's one person who there's an acquaintance. He had a friend acquaintance back in the day who he didn't really speak much to, but he has a wedding coming up, so he sent him an invite even though he really doesn't want him to be there. And this
Mm.
person received the invite. He doesn't really want to go to this person's wedding because he doesn't like him very much, but he thinks he'll feel bad if he doesn't go. So they're
Yeah.
both he's at this person's wedding when he doesn't want him to be there and he doesn't want to be there, but they're both kind of just thinking about what the other person thinks about them. And we're failing to apply that individual thinking. But it's a funny joke, but it's so true because even outside of a company setting, even if you're just living life, like the assumptions that we just accept as normal in this world, right? Like lifestyles, we just accept that this is the way things are because that's how everyone in the globe does it.
Yeah.
Art, I mean, how do you think we can develop that skill of individual thinking?
That's a hard question. Actually, because every time I think about it, I'm proven wrong. And about because it obviously came from an idea from someone else. So that kind of it's a paradox where I've never been able to think uniquely on how to think uniquely. But I think the as my kids are getting to an age when I do need to tell them about this, and hope that they develop a self-confidence that allows for them to think uniquely. Um, the key things that I would begin with is to make sure that before agreeing to what so say no, let me take a step back. So first of all, the regarding originality of thought. I think for originality of thought, you need to have reflection time. So I think I would go to the point of making sure that everyone um, puts puts time to think for themselves around topics that they are either actively discussing or they're related to, or things of interest, and have original thoughts. Or if they're suddenly exposed to an original thought by someone else, they consider, they listen, they before agreeing or before kind of uh, incorporating that into their lives wholeheartedly, they do offer, they do have some reflection time by themselves, not in a group setting, because in a group setting you might tend towards harmony, just to kind of end a conversation, and that might not be what that might be because you have lack of time, or not everyone wants to keep arguing, so you need to but not all things need to end harmoniously, especially some things that affect your life in a very major drastic way might be things that you need to kind of go reflect and resolve by yourself. So reflection, again, it comes to that. Have original thinking time. Think and spend time on thinking about what you think about something, not just agree to what people say in articles and um, in videos or in lectures. I did a lot when I was young about that because I just wanted to belong. Validation is something I sought as a kid. Again, this is how, different people are brought up in different ways. My circumstances produced me, and it took me my journey to figure out how reflection worked. And I think if someone had advised me at that time, on how to be original, I would have benefited. And if they had said, you do that by just taking time, think for yourself, fight for yourself, argue with yourself, that would be a key way to have original thought. I welcome all these mediums like Twitter and AirChat now, where people are able to vocalize what they think and talk with other people. That is a powerful way to develop an idea. But sometimes social pressure just brings out the opposite of original thinking. So having time to yourself, but in the context of having discussed this idea with other people, is the way to develop original thinking. That's one. Two, secondly, the idea of practicing um, creativity in some way, is what I would say. Um, with just opening up your mind, and trying to you practice creativity or kind of be creative in different ways is a way to develop original thinking. That kind of naturally puts you in a place where you know that you can trust yourself, that every time you are able to participate in a debate um, are told to talk about something new, you would be saying things that are original and you can trust yourself about, is by practicing the fact that you regularly kind of have some creative output and you're happy about it. You don't have to be right, you don't have to be right. Original thinking doesn't mean that it is the right thinking, that the rightness will come with debate, with agreement, or maybe it doesn't need to come. But original thinking is more about confidence and about practice of, um, you know, uh, getting things out of you. And that is sometimes quite hard for people.
Right.
And I think these are the two tactics I would kind of revert to at the moment. But I have a lot to learn about how to develop original thinking, and on philosophy, looking at philosophers, looking at how people in the old days, scientists in the old days, they came to kind of their conclusions would definitely help. At the moment, we have too much noise around us. We have too many distractions, too many things that will make it easy for us to not get to a state of boredom. I think that noise is making it harder for people, well, for us to figure out how to have these kind of original thoughts, or, um, you know, have an identity for ourselves that is not influenced. So that's why I look at older scientists and older scientific ways and stuff, because that was an era where that calmness did exist. But again, as I said, there might be some ways around, even in through this noise, develop original thinking that I'm not aware of, but I'm still learning.
Yeah, these are two tactics that I think are great. And I want to build off of your first one about reflection. Um, I would say that another reason why I've seen reflection helps is because it also lets you become aware of your desires as well, right? Because you mentioned that, for example, the desire of validation, which drives us to not think for ourselves, but kind of think about what other people think about us, because that helps us to achieve more validation. I think when
Mhm.
you also just spend time by yourself in reflection, you can also like witness that desire better. And I think this is one of the biggest lessons I learned in my junior year, because in the fall term of my junior year, I would spend less than 10 minutes a day by myself, which I think is pretty insane to say that. But I was at boarding school, right from when I woke up in the morning, I was at breakfast, I was at classes all day. I would be at sports practice. After dinner, I'd go to the library. I wouldn't work in my room, I'd go work with other people. And then when I come back to my room, I sleep. So I really spent, I think, which is crazy to think about now, but less than 10 minutes a day by myself. I was
Mhm.
constantly around other people. And at the same time, I would say I craved their validation as well. I had this feeling in me, because for the first time I started to do better with my life and to improve my life a little bit. And I saw that positive reinforcement from society. And I kind of started to crave that reinforcement more and more. So I was all day around people, different groups of people, different friendships, maneuvering through all of them, trying to get as much of that validation as possible. But I think it
Yeah.
definitely reached a point where like I I felt like I didn't have anyone close to me. I had a lot
Mhm.
of people that were like friendly to me, but not that many close connections. And my response to that was just, I think my friend recommended this to me. I was talking to him about it when we were studying for statistics one day, and he told me, how much time do you spend by yourself? Which was really interesting to me. And since then, what I call it is ritualized solitude, that each day I want to spend at least some time by myself.
Amazing.
It could be just doing nothing by myself. It could be just reading or schoolwork, but even if it's like an actual practice like meditation, I love to meditate. I do it every day. Journaling has helped me to understand my mind a lot better. But just trying to spend at least some time every day by myself.
Mhm.
And I think down the road, like a year later, I've definitely seen the impacts of that. I think my mental clarity, I think I tell you a lot about some of the reflections I've had in this podcast. I would have never been able to do that a year ago. I didn't even understand my own mind. I was constantly in the emotional desirous state, just doing whatever I felt like doing in the moment. But I think
Yeah.
really that I think the first principle you laid out has been what's drove me to develop at least some degree of original thinking in my life.
Awesome. Journaling is, yeah, that's the, the overall term for all of this, ritualized kind of work, and you kind of have these three kind of columns that you fill in. Those are things that are tools that are recommended by even mental health kind of workers to kind of get into the state of wellness, but it doesn't need to be curative. You're preventative or just power yielding purposes. Journaling is quite important, I think. For me, I getting pen to paper and writing, all of these things were once something I thought was too far away, so I had to kind of go through my journey to find time to myself. The realization came when I realized when that I needed reflection time was when showers were the only time when I was like, whoa, I'm thinking, and these are amazing thoughts that are coming to me. Because even in the toilet, you have social media or a game to kind of work on. You never are alone from any external influence. So maybe shower time is, it's the reflection time for a lot of people. But I'd recommend that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just helps you like your mind works in such an interesting way as well. I
Mm,
think if you do fitness, for example, and you go to the gym and you take progress photos, you can see how your body improves with time,
yeah,
but there's no way to see how your mind changes over time.
yeah.
And I think most people just think that my mind is my mind, it's what it is. But since I kept a journal, I've noticed how much my mind has changed in a year. Not even
Right.
just a linear perspective, but just one day I have this idea and the next day I have something that completely contradicts that idea. And I completely forgot I had that idea. And I look back and like, is this even me who wrote this on a piece of paper? But I think our brain is something we definitely don't know enough about. And I think a huge part of scientific research now is going in that direction of like neurology. I find that really interesting. But yeah,
Absolutely. But it is also, it is a time when generative AI is also making it very easy for us not to think and not to know a lot. So it's a scary time as well. So I think it is even more pronounced that you do these things to yourself to understand you better, because it's very easy to outsource at this point of time. So yeah, good for you. That sounds like something that you should talk about to more of your peers.
yeah.
Um, because it's the generations of people who are going to work and create need and are already equipped with these kind of tools much early in life, and that would make it a very productive generation. So I think learning it early is a privilege. So I'm glad you've discovered that.
And as another glimmer of hope for the future, I used to think that the things I did were very maybe unique or peculiar, as in most people are not sitting there journaling, most people are not like meditating, for example. And I used to think that was a very unique thing to me. But I will say that when I started the podcast and I started just having conversations with people, like more deeper conversations, right? Even if it's just with my friend, I
Mhm.
noticed that there's a lot more to people I didn't know before. And people actually do care about this stuff. I think people do see, I think we've been talking about today with the problems with like social media use and constantly immersed in some activity, jumping from task to task. Um, like even if there's not a single person who does everything I do. I mean, I talked to this one person here. He says, "Oh yeah, I pray every day. I try to spend some time reflecting." Oh, I was like, "Okay, that's pretty cool." And then this friend, "Oh yeah, I was journaling last summer." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you did that." And the more and more I talk to people and like like outline the time to just sit down for an hour or 2 hours just talking, you can really see that most people do actually care. And most people are actually doing a lot more with their life. Like some people I've known for years, I never knew that we had these kind of things in common. But I do think that starting this podcast has given me more of a positive view of the future, that I think there is hope. And I think that we'll be able to navigate these challenges as well that you've laid out.
Amazing. Yes, you're right. I mean, there was a time when I kind of did not really put focus on any of this because um, my way was forward. Who wants to look back and reflect, and you grow as you go forward. I assumed you'll just be a better version of your previous person, because your mind is assimilating that, and it's the best computer out there, and kind of it knows how to protect itself. That's what it's made for. But you realize that it has, not all algos that it's got is right. The programming is from generations behind, scientifically. So you might need to correct a few. Yeah, and things like I kind of gave up on things that society has accepted as normal, like spiritualism, religion, even praying. I look down upon it. That's the only thing that I think age has taught me over time, and that maybe now that I'm tolerant about these things, because they are just mechanisms for you to reflect and do better. But my problem was when that was all it did, and it kind of conflicted with my idea of the world, where you are, doing great, you're contributing, you're working, you're making the world better. That kind of somehow that what I viewed was not how they kind of contributed. But I think it's just a difference of messaging, and I think the world could be a better place with better messaging, better communication, for sure. All this noise around us, social media constantly generating opinions, etc. It's easy to kind of get lost in too many opinions, too many kind of things to do right or things to do wrong. You kind of don't know where you belong, because there are now too many categories. So finding yourself in all of this requires some kind of hunkering down and going into yourself, and doing it from inside out, more often than not. So yeah, that's what I think, that's where, but you only know it when you see other people, talk to other people, people and you had some notions about how they are not. You got to keep your open mind, talk to different people, but you're still going to come back to what you think is right and wrong, and reflect, and then that's how you become that person, that original person we always aspire to be.
Great. Tell me more about the story of when you went back to Hungary to find your father's origin. I was really interested by that story, so I want to learn more.
Yeah, that was one of those things that you're like, you can't believe it happened to you. You think that it happens in movies, right? But it defines so many of the things you become. So yeah, my father, he was in Hungary in the 60s. So a man from India, Assam, who got a chance to study in the 60s in Hungary, where not a lot of people from outside used to study in those remote areas. So yeah, this was so my father, yeah, he was an enigma. He kind of passed away when I was young, so I always wanted to know him a bit more. So um, when I had this opportunity to go to Hungary when I was in my 20s, I'd come out to live in Ireland. Um, I came with some of his old Hungarian kind of, the things he had cherished and kept in a box and at home, and there were some letters and photos and stuff, and with Hungarian written. So I brought that with me with a hope that, this is all I don't know what's written here, but I had this desire to know him a bit better, and decided to kind of go find where he studied, which I didn't know a lot about. And so that's why I didn't have a lot of time to find out. I went to this place where he studied, a university called Szeged, for 24 hours, and within that time, just try to show, will that had about finding something about my dad, and serendipity, my God, and the will of people when they see that you've taken the step to come so far into a place where nobody spoke the language, but that your determination and the cause for which I was doing moved so many people that within the 24 hours I was not only able to find all I wanted, but more, and I carry it as a treasure, about how it happened and what happened and all the things that I found out about him. And there were instances of me deciding not to take a left turn, but a right turn out of sheer, I'm like, oh, this left is not looking like it's going somewhere. And I took a right turn and I bumped into a person who was the only English speaking person probably around in that area, who happened to ask me, saying, you look lost, brother, because I looked out like an outsider. And he helped me
Wow.
find some of the friends from 40 years ago. And I found old letters, reasons for why he came there, reasons why he left, etc., just because of bumping into that person. And I let them help me, as a person at that time who didn't like to take help. That was also a big leap for me. So lots of, unique kind of learnings from that experience that I kind of imbibed as a personality. I decided that I, I, I'll take leaps of faith. I'll trust things to go a certain way as long as I keep steering and I make my goals clear, kind of thing. Where came from that incident early in my life, and I'm really grateful for it. I'm trying to write it all down,
Oh yeah, you said
um,
that. Yeah.
and to see if I can kind of release it or publish it. Let's see where
I
that
love that.
goes.
If you ever get a chance to publish that, I'd love to check that out.
Awesome. I'll
Well,
definitely.
thank you so much for taking the time to having a conversation with me today. If anyone wants to learn more about FitXR or the new adventures you're going on, where can people go to find you?
Yeah, I'll be around on Twitter, and hopefully air chat. That looks exciting. But be happy to speak with the work I do, and hopefully people can see that in a meaningful way when it gets launched. Or or you can be the voice. I'm really privileged to be talking to a young boy like you who's achieved so many things in your life, and hopefully your medium is also a powerful channel. So good luck with that, with developing this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, you're the inspiration, and you've gone out, you've done it yourself. So hopefully, I can follow in your footsteps and make something of my own as well. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Shaurya. Take care. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed that episode, then you're gonna love this episode right here. Make sure you click here to watch that video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.